Hello friends and welcome to practice. Today we're going to be using the breath to open up more space in the front body and create some opening. I've been inspired a lot by watching nature recently. It's springtime, depending on what time of year you're watching this video. It's currently spring for me, and I've been witnessing and observing kind of the flowers starting to unfurl their petals and new shoots of grass kind of emerging from the soil. And as I'm observing, it's been a really helpful reminder to me to remember the cycles and the rhythms of nature, and that nature doesn't rush. Nature allows it and takes its time for new things to occur, for new growth to occur. And so often, so many of us kind of want to move around and have things speed up and get to summer faster, or like have things in life happen so much faster for us. And if we remember and recall that we are all actually part of nature, there's an opportunity for us to kind of sink into the same cycles and patterns and just spend more time allowing opening, receiving space to allow new growth. And what I'd like to do is invite kind of those ideas into this practice when we consider opening the front body. Spending kind of a little less time considering how we might position our body and use muscles to open us up, and instead consider how the breath can move our bodies and the breath can open us up. So I will stop talking and let's begin with practice. You might like to bring 2 blocks or have 2 blocks to hand, or a bolster. I'm actually going to start seated on 2 blocks. I'll just angle myself so hopefully you can see. This is going to be a seated practice today. You can actually probably do a lot of these postures on a chair if that's actually more comfortable for you. But yeah, we're going to remain seated. So just find a comfortable seat on whatever it is you're sitting on. Find a stable seat as well. So if you're on a bolster, kind of just, or even on bricks, just wiggle yourself around a minute until you feel stable, until you can feel like you're able to root down through the block into the earth beneath you, kind of creating some structure there. And we'll just take a couple of breaths just to settle ourselves in to the start of practice. Feel free to close down the eyes. We're going to stay here in this position just for a short while. And as we kind of begin to think about using the breath to open up into new spaces, I just want to spend a bit of time thinking about and experiencing what new spaces they might be for us. So if you'd like to bring your hand, one of your hands or both hands, to your belly, you don't need to, but it can really help with kind of feedback to kind of help to connect the brain to the part of the body where we want to send the breath. So when you're ready, just taking some deep breaths into the belly space. Easing yourself in. They don't have to be your deepest breaths yet. Take your time just as you start to kind of engage into drawing your attention to one singular part of your body. And as you're breathing here, I'd like you to think about what it might feel like if you breathe in a way where you intend to bring in spaciousness, openness, kind of a sense of fullness and roundedness of the breath. During this practice, it's really nice for us to think about kind of how we might think about the breath kind of opening us up, almost like the unfurling of those petals on a plant, or like a bud. Using that kind of imagery to imagine this kind of opening up of the body into the space where we are directing the breath. Take one more breath here. Then we're going to move the breath up into kind of the upper area of the belly, and kind of the lower ribs. So you might want to place your hands on your ribs softly here. Again, just to bring the intention in, intention, direction. just for the first couple of breaths, think about still breathing kind of fullness and outwards, fullness and forwards. Sometimes it can feel a little unusual there. It might feel a bit unfamiliar. And now can you direct your attention to filling the breath into the side ribs, expanding the body out to the side. You might start to notice kind of less movement in the belly as you're directing the breath up and out into the side of your body. Now let's move the breath into the chest. Again, it might help to lay your hands or your fingertips just lightly on your chest. Just drawing your attention to that area of the body, seeing if you can create space, fullness, kind of a rounding of the chest space. And finally, can you think about bringing the breath further up into the upper chest? The upper chest, and maybe spreading the breath out across your shoulders. You might feel like a slight hollowing actually of your belly as you do this. It's not so much a drawing in to push the breath up, but it's more kind of the focus of the breath spreading out across your collarbones and across and down your shoulders. Just naturally kind of draws that belly in. Okay, and then release the breath. Just take a moment, notice any sensations, any different feelings, any different energy, and we'll move on. Take one hand out to the side and gently place it on the floor to your side. You can come down a brick if actually that's helpful, or come down to the floor if you just want to feel a bit closer to the floor here. We're going to take a couple of side stretches. So on an inhale, raise your opposite arm up to the sky and just stop, just where you start to feel a stretch. Don't go into your deepest stretch or where you feel kind of your muscles really kind of stretching and elongating, and then a kind of flexion in this side of the body. Keep your arm up just where it's easeful. Allow the shoulder to relax. And now we're going to use the breath to open up that side body. So start to invite the breath into the side body. Start to think about the breath expanding out to the side, almost like, can you think about the breath kind of puffing you out to the side? Kind of start the thought kind of down near your hip and see how it feels as you kind of rise your intention all the way up to the ribs, and see where you can create the most space. Deep breaths can be helpful. But try and keep them soft. We are with this breath, and with the directing of the breath, inviting the body to open rather than pushing the body to open. It is purely an invitation to see where we can create more space. Let's switch sides. Again, reaching the arm up overhead just to a place that feels easeful, a slight stretch. Then let's move the breath into that space. Move the breath through and up the side body. Allow the head to release to a place that feels comfortable, without strain, but also without, too much of a stretch on the neck. Soft, deep breaths, easing your body into the stretch, creating space. And we'll release here. Take a breath or two, just sat upright, feeling into the sensations. Now we're going to take a twist. So you can stay where you are seated, if that's comfortable for you. If at all, if this seated position doesn't feel good, feel free to come into any seated position that works for you. That might be on a chair, or it might be sitting cross-legged. We can do all of these postures and these practices in a variety of seated positions. So with this twist, what I'm going to encourage you to think about is creating a spiral with the body, kind of spiraling your spine around into a twist, using the breath in different areas of the body to create more space and opportunity to deepen your twist. What I encourage you to resist doing is muscling your way in. You know, kind of classically in a lot of yoga postures, we use the arm, not necessarily to press us in, but to create some resistance that allows us to deepen our twist. And I'm just going to encourage you to think differently about it this time, about purely using the breath to create space. So let's begin. It will probably feel quite subtle. The movement might feel quite small to you, but the more practice that we do using this technique, the more we can find kind of a real easeful spaciousness just by using our breath. So starting at the belly, take a deep inhale. And as you exhale, moving from the belly, finding a little bit of a twist. And as you inhale, coming back to center. Exhale here. Inhale. Exhale and twist. You can see my twist is very subtle right now. I'm really just thinking about moving the lower part of my spine with this movement. Taking an inhale. As I exhale, twisting, and then I'm going to stay here. Next, I'm going to inhale into my side ribs. Allowing the side ribs to open, the mid-back, and then I'm going to exhale and twist a bit more. Staying here. Thinking about that spiral, inhale into the upper chest. Exhale, twisting again, spiraling around, using the breath. There'll be some muscular engagement here. But see if as you're twisting, the breath can remain really natural, really soft. You can still feel the channels of the body open and the breath circulating. Spiraling up from your root all the way up through the crown of your head. And when you're ready on an exhale, unspiral your way to the front, and we'll repeat on the other side. So taking a deep belly breath. Exhale, finding a twist in the lower part of your spine. Returning to center, inhale. Exhaling, twisting again. Return to center. Inhale. We're going to twist again on the exhale, and then we're going to stay here, just like the other side. Moving the breath on the inhale now up into the ribs, into the side ribs. Exhale, moving that twist further from our mid-back this time, and resting here. Inhaling into the chest, upper chest. Exhaling from the upper part of our spine, finding more space, allowing the breath to still feel full, round, spacious. And slowly spiraling from the top down, coming to face the front. Taking another few breaths here. Feeling into new space. Allowing these sensations to kind of integrate into the body. Do you feel any different? Do you feel any new spaciousness? Do you feel a different sense of energy? For me, when I breathe into different areas of the spine, even though the movement is can be very subtle and very slow, moving at quite a slow, mindful pace, I actually feel my energy rise. Like I feel a lot of energy now, kind of really moving up through my spine. And that can be one of the beautiful things about using the breath. If kind of any of you work on breath-based, not simple, but purely breath-based practice and breath work, you know how the breath can really shift and move energy through the body. Right, now we're going to come up into kind of a kneeling position, into King Arthur's. So, stepping your left leg forward. I'm mirroring you, I believe, so I'm using my right, but this should be your left. Coming up, finding an upright position here. You can keep your toes tucked or untuck them. Just find wherever feels stable. Now, we're going to start to direct our breath into the back hip, the front hip of the back leg. Again, it might help just for feedback here, just to bring the palm of your hand, rest it gently on that hip space, and just think about drawing your intention into that hip. What we want to do is open that hip with the breath. So lunge forward just to a place that feels like you feel a slight stretch, nothing too much again, kind of easeful stretch, where your nervous system still feels completely relaxed. It can be as small or as deep as or works for you. Now, as we bring attention to this area and think about drawing the breath into this area, it's likely that you're going to start to feel a stretch, kind of a stretch running through and up the front body. And as you exhale, you might find a bit more space to come forward. I like to visualize again here this kind of opening up, this unfurling of a flower, of a flower bud. So even though the stretch is kind of stretching up through and down through the body, what does it feel like if actually you're considering breathing in a way that's like opening up the front of that hip, kind of spreading it open, curling it around to the side? How does that allow you to find more space there, more room to go a little bit deeper, but also maintaining that sense of ease? When you're ready, slowly come out. Come back onto your heels. Sit for just a second. Notice any difference between the two hips. And we'll switch sides. So bringing your right leg forward. Coming up, finding an upright position. It might be helpful to just think about a slight tuck under of the pelvis. Just a slight tuck, or at least maintaining neutral spine rather than kind of kicking your butt out into an anterior tilt here. And when you're ready, easing yourself into a very gentle starting position. And now bringing your awareness of breath into that hip space, into your left hip space. You might find that kind of soft, gentle, kind of fluid breath actually feels good in the hips. This idea, the breath kind of moving through you, around, again like unfurling, kind of unwrapping of the hip as it opens forward. Or you might find kind of big, deeper, kind of richer breath actually helps create more space. Explore and play with different kind of ways of breathing into new spaces. And on the exhales, you might find yourself kind of finding that new space. And when you're ready, slowly make your way back to kneel. Taking just a breath here, feeling into the sensations of the hips, allowing those sensations to settle in the body. Now we're going to move into our last couple of postures. This next one can be done, they probably all can, but this one can often be practiced standing up, which I actually do quite like. But because I said this is going to be a seated practice, we're going to do this one on the ground. But I am going to encourage you to sit on something. Actually, I'm going to do it this way. Sit on something in between your legs so that you have a stable base. You're still able to kind of root down, but also so you have something in between your thighs just to kind of gently press into. Because what I am going to suggest is you slightly tuck your pelvis under, because what we want to do here actually is focus on really opening the chest and kind of maintaining the natural curves of the spine, kind of isolating, keeping this part of our body, the kind of lower part of our body in our abdominal area quite stable. We're still going to allow breath to circulate and move here, but actually what we want to do is really focusing on opening up the top part of our chest, opening up the top part of our front body. So I find that a gentle squeeze on something in between my legs just gives me a bit of feedback and reminds me just to sit with my pelvis either in neutral, or if you like me, have a natural anterior tilt, like thinking about a posterior one can help you maintain kind of that more neutral position. Right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to stretch the arms out in front of us, open up the fingers, and with an external rotation of the arm, so wrapping and again like opening and unfurling like a flower in spring, opening out our chest here. Now, if like me, you already feel a stretch down the arm, just take it easy to begin with. It might be that if you're experiencing a nerve stretch here, you might want to bring your arms further forward, come out at any time. I have experienced this particular posture as being quite strong, and it actually brought up quite a lot of emotions for me the first time I did it. So if that happens to you, and I'm not saying it will or it won't, I just invite you to follow what feels best for your body. And if that is to come out anytime, come out and just allow the sensation to settle, to sit, to find a place where you can then feel more comfortable again. When we do certain positions and movements that bring up emotion, we can feel quite vulnerable, or a lot of things rush through our heads. And all I would say is just spend some time sitting, getting still, sinking, finding your kind of grounding again, and just allowing those sensations to flow and to pass, because they will. So if you're ready, come and find this open stretch. Now what we're going to do is slightly squeeze our thighs into the block. Try and maintain that sensation if you can with a slight tuck under of your pelvis. Now we're going to lift our chin. It's hard for me to speak, so I won't do this the whole time, but we're going to lift our chin and slightly poke it out like a turtle poking its head out from under its shell. Just to create a little bit of stretch here, nothing too intense, just a little bit, just to really open the front body. Now what I am going to suggest is thinking about bringing your awareness of the breath into the top front part of your chest. Think about breathing almost along and spreading open the collarbones from the center outwards. Breathing deeply into that space. Breathing deeply and imagining the breath to wash and spread out over your shoulders, kind of almost wrapping and spiraling around to the back of your shoulder. Keeping the chin poked out. Breathing deeply into this space. You might start to feel your shoulder blades kind of coming together at the back body. Opening up. Spreading Take a couple more breaths here if you can. If you want to come out, obviously feel free. And when you're ready, come out. Take a gentle kind of forward bend, find some flexion in the spine. And then come to sit in seated upright. Maybe take a releasing breath. I found that particular posture really helpful when I do it regularly, to really help open me up. And coupling that with kind of some back strengthening exercises has really helped me with my posture. And the more comfortable I feel doing it, the more trust I have in my body to open, which means I can kind of go deeper and feel at ease with the sensations, which sometimes feel quite extreme for me. Anyway, moving on to final posture here. You can stay seated on a block if you want to. I'm going to sit on the floor. And we are going to come into a slight recline position. You're very welcome to use camel to explore this next practice. I'm going to stay kneeling closer to the floor, but if you want to come up into camel, then you are more than welcome. What I am going to invite you to do here, you can also, if you want to bring the floor close to your hands, place blocks or a bolster underneath your hands there. But just come down to a position where you're leaning back, supporting your weight on your hands, not pressing into the floor. There is a slight feeling of giving your weight into the floor and then a slight rebound, so you feel supported and held, but without pressing and pushing. We're still not working on kind of a muscular back bend practice here. We're just focusing on using the breath. So come to what feels like an easeful position. And we're going to do what we did in the first practice, where we're going to think about drawing the breath into each area of the body to create more and space, which then might translate into a back bend. So when you're ready, we'll start with the belly. Take some breaths into the belly. Using the belly breath to find some length in the spine. So maybe as you inhale and fill the belly, you feel the crown of the head just lifting a little bit up and back behind you. Then next time you inhale, we're going to move the breath up into the ribs. Into the front ribs and then into the side ribs. Creating space in the side body. Then we're going to move the breath up into the front of the chest. Noticing how breathing into that front chest space might start to create a bit more movement in the upper part of the spine. And then finally, moving that breath even further up into the upper chest and spreading that breath out across our shoulders. Again, no muscular effort here. Purely thinking about the breath as a way to guide you into more space. Notice if you take a shallower breath, how much less your body actually moves. And a deeper breath, you might see, creates a deeper movement expression. Maybe on your next breath back, allow your head to drop, or rather not drop, but like slowly tilt backwards, not all the way back, where you feel a constriction in your throat, back to a place where you might be using your neck muscles a little bit to keep your neck up, but you still want your throat open, so all the breath can flow freely through the body. But this way the chin is kind of out of the way of the chest space. Allowing yourself to open up. When you're ready, gently bring yourself up to a seated position. Sit tall for a breath. Notice the energy. Notice the textures, the sensations, any changes in temperature of the body. We're going to close in child's pose. So, following the same theme, allow your breath to take you down to child's pose in a way that feels most nourishing. We've spent some time, obviously, in the front body, opening the chest, and now we want to allow the body to close off, to give itself some time to kind of recalibrate. So move into this as softly as feels good for you. You might want to come down with your knees wide. You might be up here. You might just be resting on your forearms, or you might want to come all the way down. And I find after back bend practice, I actually like to bring my arms down by the side of my body. So coming down to finding child's pose. In this forward fold position, we'll just take a couple of deep breaths into the back body. Filling up the space in the back of the body. Giving the back body an opportunity to open as well. Feel free to keep breathing into the back body if that feels good. Or when you're ready, release the breath and allow the natural rhythm of your breath to unfold. Allow the body and the forehead to sink into the earth, to feel the support of the earth beneath you. Front body opening, chest opening can feel quite vulnerable for some, can feel quite exposing. It can bring up a lot of emotions. It can also feel great. But now is a time just to honour what your body's been experiencing and give it time to rejuvenate, to rest, to feel safe, supported. Breathe in a way that invites a sense of softness and kindness into the body. You are very welcome to stay here. Or if you'd like to close your practice with me seated, then take your time and come up and find a seat. When you bring yourself up, just give yourself a moment to sit tall, to allow the spine to settle in its natural curves, to allow the energy to settle from the head down to the earth. Inviting in that sense of softness and new space. I'm just going to turn to face you, and feel free to do the same or stay exactly where you are. An invitation to bring your hands to your heart, to your belly, or softly in prayer. And we'll take one bow together. Thank you all for joining me in practice today. I really hope you enjoyed it, or I hope at least you found something valuable in the experience. I wish you a beautiful day ahead of you, and I wish you the opportunity to experience using the breath as a way to create new space. Until next time, thank you.